You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome you to our regular board meeting of the Uintah County School District Number 1. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, second by Josh. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Down to our next item, which is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Down to our discussion items. First item for discussion is our Scholastic Read 180, our resource upgrade purchase.
Madam Chair, members of the board, two things, and you'll find this on your board docs. There's two memos under this. The first one is regarding the materials for Read 180. They have just, in the last year or two, upgraded their system. We've been with Scholastic and Read 180 through special services for the past 6, 7, 8 years, something along those lines. There's two components to this. First of all is the materials, workbooks, teacher books, reading books, so on and so forth. That with all of the uniqueness with special education right now on the state level and funding and whatnot, we found it that it would be advantageous to include that purchase, materials purchase, which is your first memo, on this year's budget. So that will all come out of the reimbursable from the state next year. The second component to that is the training. Probably over the last 4 or 5 years, we haven't had a solid training component for our resource teachers and our professional support staff within this. As part of the upgrade, there is a training component that comes with this. We'll have our first one August 2nd, and then there are in-class coaching days all built into this. That component, I'm proposing that we pay out of next year's budget. That will come out of reimbursable and possibly our federal grant money as well. And so that will not have any effect on the overall operating budget for the district as well. That would be special services monies. But the training component will be paid out of next year's special services money.
Okay.
Rather than this year's budget.
Okay.
There's a lot, just a little bit of time to clarification and questions on that.
This is a one-time purchase at this.
For the materials and that specific training, yeah. And then we'll have to, as we move forward, the biggest thing that we run into is if and when we get new staff, to make sure that we're supporting them. The good thing about that is, so that could be an additional cost in the future, is that training. The good thing about this is we have some amazing veterans that have been teaching the Read 180 program for quite some time, that they've even been approached by Scholastic to say, hey, how would you feel about training on this? So we have some good staff that we can turn to continue to provide that training, hopefully offset those potential costs. Anything else?
Sounds good. I don't think so. So this will be for approval for our next meeting?
The training component, yes.
Okay.
The previous has been purchased. We actually have the materials again. I needed to do that for the purpose of our reimbursable budget.
Okay.
For this year. We needed that in the books that way.
Okay. Okay, any further questions?
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to our 2018 budget discussion.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Last month, we spoke principally on the expenditure side. And there's really the two parts that meet together, the expenditures and revenues. Our goal is a balanced budget. And so I'd like to kind of review or view how we go about doing the revenue side. So last month was expenditures. We will touch a little bit on the expenditures, but mostly this time is revenues. This right here, what you see in front of you on the screen is the WDE 100. You hear this often. It's an Excel sheet. This is the beta version of the beta version. I'm a member of what's called the School Finance Data Advisory Committee. It's a legislatively appointed committee, and we get what WDE tests on first, and this is vastly improved in terms of layout. It gives the same numbers as the old WDE 100. So what I did was I annotated the sections, and the big driver, the main driver of all of the funding that we get is students. We have more students, we get more funding. And so this section A has all of the ADM, and this is final as of yesterday at about 4 o'clock. I've had to redo this sheet 3 times since Friday. Sherry's getting tired of me coming in and saying, you know, the numbers have changed. But this is, there's another report that goes in called the 600 that lists all the students by grades. The second thing is this little thing is worth about $100,000, and that's the career and technical education. These are the numbers of students that are in the career classes and the number of teachers on a FTE basis that are teaching those classes. And then you've got one for the high school and one for the alternative school. So big drivers on that. If you were to compare last year's 100 versus this year's, you would see that there is not a 3-year rolling average. The state legislature this last year pulled out the 3-year rolling average on a school basis. There still is a 3-year rolling average, but it's on a district basis. It's a way for them to make cuts without the districts kind of seeing it. It's a little bit of a sleight of hand on that. So I have that little annotated C down at the corner. You would see, if you saw last year's, the 3-year rolling average by school on that. On the next page, you see this number right here. And this number is a hard number. In other words, I can't change it. It is the average of the transportation expenditures of fiscal years 15, 16, and 17. So this $1.8 million is really what it costs to run the transportation department minus the buses. And it's, in the past, it's been, we spend, we get reimbursed. This year, the legislature said, nope, you get this amount of money, live within it. What is concerning to a lot of people, and if you'd like to talk to your legislature about this, please, is that it does not factor in inflation. So, for instance, gasoline, if you noticed, has been starting to edge up. And it's in this number, but it's just taking those three years, averaging those costs and saying, okay, here's the amount that you get.
So for an example, gas goes up $1, this is 80,000. Went up $1.36.
So there is eligible lease bus payments, which are this $315,000. So when we are paying for those buses, this number will go down, although next year, And when we present the budget, we're going to present the kind of the base budget, and then remember there's a bus that's coming in December, I think, next year, and that bus will be reimbursed 100%, but we get it August of 2020, okay, 2019, August 2019, excuse me. This number right here, it says it's for claimed isolation reimbursement. We do have some students that are living out in the country, and they get reimbursed for bringing their students, their children in either part way or all the way on that. This number right here, which is, it says special ed reimbursement, is it's a calculated number. And so what I did was I kind of did what the state does, and they use about an inflator of about 3%. Now remember, we've had more, we've increased with a step for special ed reimbursement. There's been some things. We kind of want to, in this last fiscal year, maximize that because they're capping special ed this year. They're kind of doing the same thing. The state legislature is doing the same thing with the transportation as they are with special ed. So it behooves us, we think, to spend so that our cap goes up just a little bit. Okay? All right. The next section of the 100 changed today as well. This section right here, and this is probably the hardest section to kind of grasp on that, but it's the state uses the 2018 25 and 6 mil amounts as the balance point to say, okay, we're going to give UNO1 $39.5 million, and we add up everything of one fiscal year, and then they use the 25 and 6 mil to kind of finish that off. And so what we get are this, what's called the net excess collected tax shortfall. And so you've heard that I've said, okay, we're going to have tax shortfall this year, or we're going to be a net excess collected. So this right here, this top number in white, the 6 million, is the 25 mil. That's the amount that the district is to receive according to last year's number. And we brought in 6.2 million this year. This number, the next one, is the 6 mil calculation. That's the county-wide calculation. The second one in the white, the 1.392 million, and we brought in 1.44. So this number, up until about 10 o'clock today, was a guess, and we received the last bit today. So, this is the cash basis 25 and 6 mil revenue, and we park the 25 mil in the yellow, and we park the 6 mil in the yellow on the bottom, and this number right here nets that amount and says, hey, district, you have received $281,000 more than we thought you should have received. Okay? So they have a guarantee amount, and we're above that amount. So this revenue received in fiscal year 17-18 to be used in fiscal year 18-19. What they're saying is that, hey, you received a little bit more in May, use it for your 18-19 school year. So G, this little number right here, G, is an interaction of F and the prior year's 25 and 6 mil. So they're just kind of adding together and saying, okay, are you high or are you low? All right, the next section right here, we report all of the revenues. Now these numbers right here are going to flex a little bit. They're not quite nailed down. That's the thing is we're getting information almost on a daily basis, and they get modified and things like that. But I says, hey, we're at about $41.9 million that came in this last fiscal year, and it includes the settlement amount from Rickman Creek of 1.1 million. So Rickman Creek comes in. That 1.1 million also shows up in F. So the reason why we got more money this year was, thank goodness Rickman Creek came in. And so there's kind of this dance that's being played between the two fiscal years. But that 281,000 is an important number, and we'll see that in a minute. All right. So if we have a guarantee amount of 40 million roughly, actually it's going to be a little bit less this year, how do we have $41 million this year? Well, you remember I said, hey, if we don't get the money, then we get the tax shortfall. And this right here, this H, this tax shortfall grant was received in October 2017. We were short $900,000. Okay, and partly that was Rickman Creek. And so the state in October said, U101, we're going to make you whole. And so we received $902,000 there. So you've got money that's kind of coming in. This if it's in white, that means I can't touch it. So that's coming from the state, that number right there. So we add all these together, and then we come to the part that is the assessed valuation. And let me kind of quickly show you how I arrive at assessed valuation numbers, because this right here comes. Let me see if I can. Get it a little bit. This sheet right here has comes from our county assessor, and it lists railroads and gas pipelines and things, and it hits different accounts across the top. And basically, there's only two numbers that we have to really watch. The first number is over here in orange, and it says, if the camera will zoom in, it says $376,947,766. That is the county's assessed valuation number. The county then parcels out different things and says, okay, based on geographical area, U101 has an assessed valuation of $246,802,826, which added to U101, 4, and 6 becomes 376. So this number right here and the number that was over here in the corner, they're the same. So all I do is I pop in that $286,000 into this assessed valuation thing, and I tell the state that's the amount that we should be receiving. The state then says, hey, how much do you think you're going to get for the 6 mil amount? Well, what I do is I take 0.006, that's 6 mil, times the county's number, which is this 376,000. And then I multiply it by 65.65, because it's a guess right now. How many students belong to UN01? How many students belong to UN04? And how many belong to UN06? Traditionally, we've been around 67%, 65%, around there. So I just kind of make a guess. As we get going, in July, that number is going to be finalized, and then it's not a guess, it's the number. And so we'll get that. This last section, or next to the last section, is I park in the amount of fund balance. This is the largest amount. This is $6.6 million. This is the largest amount of fund balance unobligated that we can have before we give money back to the state. So we can keep 15% plus there's a little number right here, 670,000, which is the amount of fund balance we had back in 1997. So 1997, they changed the funding model, and we can keep 15%, and that's the calculation, plus $670,000. And I think we'll be fine with that. We're not going to give anything back. The 100 then calculates this number right here, this $10,374,000. This is the local revenue calculation, and it includes G above, which is that net excess collected. That amount, I remember I said this is a really important number. We've received $287,000 or $281,000 in May that really belongs in next year. And so our, quote, net amount of the local resource, which is just L minus that net excess collected, is $10 million and a little bit of change. M is the state revenue from the 100. So it just says, okay, we're gonna give you 39.26 million as part of the 100. You take out the local resources. This is the amount that the state, which is $28.8 million, that the state will say, this is the state aid portion. Okay. There's a lot of numbers on that, and I apologize, but it's kind of the big piece on that. I summarize this in two different ways because some people are like, I like it when it's grouped together. So this is what's called a pivot table. And the pivot table has on the top property taxes. And so these are the budgeted amounts of property taxes. Other local sources, interest in investments, other county sources, state sources, transfers, other financing sources, and a grand total. This number right here ties out, some people like it this way, and they tie out, this has it by local resources, other sources, and things. And if you notice down here, this total local resources, we have 10.92,893.46, which is the amount that I said, here's the amount that we can budget. Now, if you were to look at this program revenue, you might say, well, wait a minute, where's the 28.8? There is an amount that is not on the 100 that the state has said you get to count the groundskeepers. There are some school districts that have oodles of land, and they're generating money off that land, and it's sagebrush, or nearly sagebrush. It's undeveloped, and the state has said, why are we funding groundskeepers, people's salaries off of sagebrush land? And so they're taking money away from it. In this next year, we'll have even less of that amount. But there's another calculation that's not on the 100 that we get to count, and so that 29.54 takes into account a different calculation for the groundskeepers. So these right here tie back to the 100 and to basically all of the ways that I'm kind of looking at. There's other resources which include like interest. We don't get to count, or we get to count interest in a different way. When we bill out court-ordered placed kids, it's in that. Local resources, state resources, all combined. the short of it is that this right here is the summary. And last month, without really having the taxes tie out, it was kind of a guess on that. But let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. This $281,000, that's the net excess collected that we're basically saying, hey, you got it before, you're gonna, So right now, this, as presented, this is a balanced budget on that. The fund balance right now is still in development, so this is my best guess as of today on that. You also have received in your packets this one, which has, let me just summarize the major changes on that. Matt has moved some psychologists out of the personnel costs. They've moved over to the contract side. We have had a little bit of change in the legal fees that we put in there. I put in a little bit more based on information. There have been some changes to personnel, and so that's in here. And so I tried to get, here's, Aspen salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, equipment, dues and fees, and things like that. A lot of information. Okay, you have in times past have said, hey, I'd like a little bit more detail. And
This was fine here.
is if this works, but I got it at the whichever level you want, from the 30,000 foot view to the 10,000 foot view, and so on. The thing that I showed those in Meet and Confer is this little page, which I haven't given to you. But the point is that this is the page that I use to make sure that everything's in balance. Am I missing anything? And so the total line items from the expenditure sheet I put in here, and then I have different sheets that come in. And if I'm off, it tells me it's off, and it turns this into false. Then I have my revenue sheets, and I add up everything. These are coming from different spots. I add it up, and it goes true. And then do all the expenditures and expenditure resources net to zero, that true. When all of these are true, this column right here, that turns true. And I know I'm in balance. So right now, we can account for every penny.
You get trues on your first shot.
And so, yeah, so that's kind of that. I think I showed Tammy, and who else was, somebody else was at Tammy, and who else was at Meet and Confer? Somebody else.
I was.
Okay, Cassie. Oh yeah, Cassie. So this was, I kind of went through the budget on how we did. So, any questions?
It's a lot. It's a lot
Okay.
of information.
It's still in progress. Or again, assess valuation's not done. I've got a couple other, oddball stuff comes out of the woodwork right at the end. You're just like, oh, and so we're working on that. But I'm encouraged by kind of where we sit right now. So,
Good job.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for all the information and all your hard work.
And if you have questions, just drop me an email or hey, I'm not understanding this. Why didn't this die out or whatever? So we'll.
You truly get that
Thank you.
excited over numbers, huh?
Okay.
It's great.
Okay.
Somebody has to.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to our next item for discussion. We have our petition response report. So last month we were given a petition from members of our community regarding our safety policy that we developed. And I don't know, we probably don't have this to put up, do we? So we made sure that we formulated a response answering all of the questions. You know what, let's just put it up real quick. I don't want to read through it, but. So, but I want to make sure that we thanked everybody who presented that petition with us. And we took everything that they had a concern or a question about very seriously. And we developed a very in detail response. I'm not gonna read through it in detail, but I wanna make sure everybody knows that it's readily available to anybody who wants it. We'll throw it up here real quick, but we can have copies available tonight, whoever wants it. We can have copies available at the district office if anybody wants to come and pick up a copy. It will be publicly being able to be accessed on board docs, and we will put it out to our Facebook page as well. So we can just put it up for a second, and then we can go from there, and if anybody else wants to make further discussion on everything, we can.
Madam Chair, I really appreciate you placing this on the agenda. This was something that I felt was important to respond in public. I see that it's on only for discussion, and I apologize for being late today. I was hoping to amend the agenda to place this for decision because I believe that this response should be voted on by the board and that the petition actually asks the board to reconsider our policy decision, and we need to take a vote on that. So I would make a motion to amend the agenda so that we formally approve this response in a public meeting and that we vote on whether or not to rehear the policies as an action item.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table?
I would second that.
Okay. So any further discussion on that?
Madam Chair, if I may, I recommend that you do that as well. I think Jamie has the right idea.
Okay. Any further comments or? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So this will actually be moved down to HIJ, action item,
Yes, ma'am.
to our meeting tonight. And we can go ahead and talk about that further on that action item. Okay. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move on to discussion item D, which is our security infrastructure report, phase 1 vestibules.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I wish I had better news. If you recall, the bids, no one bid. So we put it out again. We encouraged our local contractors to participate. Actually tried to make it more flexible by letting them bid on one specific building instead of the whole project. Opened up the dates to include probably times that would be better for them, not better for the school district. In other words, anytime other than the summer. We did get some more interest. We probably had 4 contractors download the plans, but the cutoff date was yesterday at 3, and we received no bidders. But again, all I can do is be optimistic. There was the contractor who finished phase 2 of EMS, not the one who started the project, but the one who finished it, expressed an interest and claims he's very interested, but he could not make the deadline. So talking with the state, talking with Jaron, we just extended the deadline until July 9th. So if you know of any local contractors, again, encourage them, even if they just do one of the projects. Davis is probably the most complex because there's actually construction on the outside of the facility. EHS is probably next because you have to cut through one of those walls, and who knows what happens when you cut through a wall. And then there's just more or less renovation at UNM Meadows. So we're hoping that the interest that was generated, we'll just put another letter out and say, even if you're going to do this in March, April, or May of next year, please show interest. The other part of this message, though, is this is a physical change. You can still make changes to the security of your facility without making a physical change, and that's already in the works. Our schools are already talking about it. Their crisis teams will develop strategies. Really, the high school is probably the easiest to talk about, a single point of entry after 8 o'clock. And that's what they're committed to. Also, for the first time, even though I've encouraged, they're talking about potentially closing campus, not this year, but in the future. If you recall how we closed campus originally as the freshmen that just came in, we closed campus for them as they came in. They didn't even know that they could leave campus. The next year, we closed it for the sophomores, and then we've just kept it that way. We're actually small enough now that you can do lunches and 2 lunches. When we tried it, we had 3 lunches. So in terms of security, but also I think the big attendance issue, it's truancies at lunch. I think that'll be an improvement, but they're in the discussion phase of that. So we can still make some security decisions that don't deal with the structures, and that's coming. I'll spend some time later talking about one of the proposals we're making tonight. So I think, again, bad news, good news is we're hoping that, and this company I believe is out of Kaysville, and they did a great job at Evanston Middle School. Greenest grass in town right now, so we're hoping to respond.
Is there a deadline on how long? I know the state has some money available, right, for this kind of.
No, the money will actually be parked until we use it. The reason why we can do 3 buildings is because we're taking some funds from the current year with funds of next year. Also, we have the 10%, or we'll talk about that later tonight. Use some of that 10% for security this year, out of this year's funds, instead of putting in a carryover. And then next year, 10% too, we can do some certain things that we can't do with just 10% of the major maintenance money.
So we've gone out twice now
Yes.
to try and get local bidders.
Mm-hmm.
Is it time to go beyond that? Is there a mechanism to do that? Is that something that we can go much broader to
The
look for
first time is
contractors?
nationwide. The first time we went out, that's through the School Facilities Commission. They actually have, and I don't know all the details, but they actually send it to a nationwide bid service. That's it, big aggregator. And so any individual can look and see what's open for bid. So that one went nationwide. Typically, local contractors don't bid on state projects because of the bonding requirement. The second time we went out to bid, we worked with the state to try to loosen that up. If they went on one project, they could hit the bonding requirement.
Well, and I know the Utah contractors all are used to having a bonding requirement and are accustomed to that, which is why I ask if
Yeah.
we go more Wasatch Front, Wasatch back, they're
Yeah.
accustomed to that and have the bonds and have the licenses.
And we hit the Wasatch Front newspaper, and we'll keep doing it. That's how MW, who's the contractor, found it this time. I'm sure they're busy right now, so they're looking for projects for the fall and the spring. So that's that report.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, on to school reports. Do we have any school reports?
I have one.
Okay.
Find it. Madam Chair, members of the board, the timing was very good on this report. I received this letter from the Association of School Business Officials International. Mr. John Williams has been recognized by this organization as ASBO International, along with Verco Inc., is presenting John with the 2018 Pinnacle of Achievement Award for outstanding project using Excel Power Query to automate reports and cross-checks. The little green thing, he probably should patent it, and but he's been recognized for his expertise in that. He sure makes a difference. I know I call him and say, hey, I need some help with the spreadsheet, and he comes down. So it's kind of neat that they recognized him. What this award will do is he'll get a check for $1,000, complimentary registration to attend 2018 ASBO annual meeting and expo in Kissimmee, Florida. That's in September. And he receives a Crystal Pinnacle of Achievement Award to be presented at that time. So congratulations, John.
Anybody else like to share anything?
So just real quick, our students that are going to be attending the National Special Olympic event in Seattle, I believe it's next week, and Coach Drew from Evanston here. I was talking to Coach Drew, and there are 4 to 5 teams or states that get sponsored for to have a excessively large duffel bag and multiple items of clothing and shoes and so on and so forth. Well, Wyoming was not picked initially. A state, for whatever reason, dropped out. And so I just want to give kudos to Wyoming, to our student athletes and our coach. They were selected by Nike to be fully sponsored that way. So I'm super excited to see our kids competing and to have the recognition on that national level and from a national worldwide company actually to be sponsored for their competitions. Thanks. Yeah, that'd be good.
Anybody else tonight? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. So down to our public comments. Does anybody have public comment tonight? Okay, with none noted, we'll go ahead and move on to our action items. First item is our EHS choir trip request.
Madam Chair and members of the board, thank you so much for your time today. I've submitted a trip request to Mr. Thomas for the spring of 2019 for the chorale, which is the advanced concert choir at the high school. We would like to attend a music festival in San Diego, which gives us a really wonderful performance experience. In addition to performing at the festival, we will be able to participate in a 90-minute clinic session with one of their adjudicators, and that takes place at a college campus. And so educationally, it gives us kind of a broader performance opportunity. And then, of course, it also just broadens the horizons of the students that are able to attend, because they'll get to go to SeaWorld, and we can go to the USS Midway and experience some things outside of our little Wyoming town. So I've submitted with the trip request. I have a plan for fundraising, and the trip will be in March 28th and through March 31st of 2019, and I'm just looking for your approval.
I have to, I'm thankful that it's come as early. Typically we get these about 2 weeks before the event, so thanks for coming early. There is an advantage, financial advantage, if we get this done early, so thank you for
Yes. Yes, if we pre-register by, I believe the early registration deadline is June 15th, then they were going to throw in, I think, 2 free student registration fees, and so thought I'd get going on it right away. Yeah, a lot of them are the typical fundraising things, as far as garage sales and working with local businesses and things like that. This company, World Strides, they have a fundraiser. It's kind of it's a coupon card, kind of like the kind of like the wild card, but it's on a it's national brands, and so we don't have to sell to just local people. We can sell them to my grandmother down in Arizona, and she can sell it to her bridge group and that kind of thing. So that's kind of nice to broadens the horizons a little bit. And so that we get included with this company, we get free access to that, which could be a big fundraiser for us.
Two questions. Are you thinking that the fundraising will cover the entirety of the cost, so you don't need any expenditures approval from us?
We're hoping. I've been working. I had a parent meeting 2 weeks ago, and we're hoping to working with parents that we can cover the majority of the cost through fundraising, and then students can save and cover the rest.
Okay.
So
And then in March, isn't that usually when there's some sort of testing going on? We're not going to miss any testing or anything. You're not worried about that?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I was asked by my principal to not do it in April, because that's our testing window. So. That's partly why we want to, aggressively do some fundraising. But there's no, I'm not making it a requirement of the class. So, I mean, if students opt out, that's perfectly fine. They can still, participate in the class for the full year. So.
I think that question, Heather, would be if you would come back to us if kids are
Okay.
having issues
Yes.
that possibly
Okay.
we could support,
Okay.
or help.
No, I don't want to exclude anyone either. Thank you.
the kid home because
Thank you. That's good to know. I appreciate that.
Just with the costs and stuff that I was looking at, I mean, you guys got a lot of work to do.
Yes.
You got a lot of selling to do.
Yeah. So,
It's a great opportunity for the kids. I looked at your brochure and everything, you're gonna be busy.
Yes.
And I think it's really a great opportunity.
thank you.
How many students?
We're looking at about 30. Registration is kind of in flux. I know there are some students that are not on the registration that haven't registered yet that are planning to. That have talked to me informally. So,
300?
no,
30.
for 30 students. 30 students.
Cost per,
Oh, okay.
300 would close school for those.
That's still regular.
So much work, 300.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I recommend we approve this.
I second.
okay. Second by Kim. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
All right. Thank you
Have
very
fun.
much. Thank you.
Heather, part of this approval, I think, is a noticeable difference in the enthusiasm that the kids have.
Thank you.
So
That-
you're passing that on to them, and then they're relaying it on to us as an audience. So
Thank you. That's the idea, is to invigorate the program.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our Evanston Parks and Recreation Department Annual Operating Agreement.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, board members. Like I said, it's just that time of year again to review and renew the operating agreement between the Evanston Parks and Recreation District and Uintah County School District Number 1. As I've spoken with Mr. Thomas and others, there are really no changes to the agreement that for this coming fiscal year, 18 and 19. And also we'd like to approve the reappointment of board member Rick Schuler at this time for an additional 3-year term.
Okay. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, second by Josh. Jenny. Okay, discussion? Questions?
full agreement.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Very
And like I said,
easy.
in my experience, Parks and Recreation and school districts and schools are a perfect match, so we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tell you thank you for all of your
Oh,
service and
thank
Yes.
you.
appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you very much.
You know I'm sad.
It was a hard decision, but I think it's the right decision. Yes, Mr. Bennett.
Notice the baseball fields are brown. Is there a reason? The high school?
The high school, the solenoid was turned off inadvertently the last few days. The EMS field and the overthrust ballparks, we had a backflow preventer that went out that we've gone through 2 different ones, but that water was on earlier today.
I thought there was a reason like that.
Yeah, and
Somebody
it's
answered that,
not
but
good, and we wish we all looked like EMS, but their system is brand new. So, but yeah,
Okay.
that's the
You're
reason
aware
for
of
that.
this,
But
but-
yes, we are. But we appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you. Okay. Down to our personnel. Our first item is our resignations.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we recommend that you accept the resignations that are listed.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the resignations as presented by Mr. Thomas are listed.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, down to our certified contracts.
We recommend that you approve the following contracts as listed. Would you like to go through those names?
I think we have everything in front of
Okay.
us.
I'd like to have at least go through and tell us what school they're at.
Okay.
We'll be at.
Jessica Chandler will be an elementary teacher at Clark Elementary. Jennifer Havland will be the nurse at the middle schools. Jody Mitchell will be a full-time teacher at Aspen. You already approved Jody's contract last month, but it was only for a half-time position. The position came open, she took the full-time, and you'll see the half-time below. Rebecca Young, again, Rebecca's already teaching for us part-time. We thought it would be good to put her contract out in front of you since she will be teaching full-time. She's at Horizon. She teaches the graphic arts class. Very excited. Catherine Brewer is a teacher. She'll be at Aspen Elementary. She is the half-time replacement of Jody. Christopher Link will be the social studies teacher at Evanston High School. And that's the group.
Thank you.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the contracts as presented.
Second.
second by Josh. Any discussion or other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And then down to our contract services for special education.
Madam Chair, members of the board, last month we tried to do this, but we forgot to attach the contract, so we got it right this time. But this is how we're going to approve these special service contracts. Matt's here. He can answer any questions that would not be, I guess, too specific. But you can see BOCES, CBAR-V for psychological evaluations. Brandon Hensching will be at individual psychological testing, and then instructional intensity will provide some coaching, training, and data analysis. She's been doing this for quite a while. Very exceptional. You probably noticed, hopefully you noticed, that we lost 3 school psychs at the end of the school year. That is brutal. That's for the reason for these 2 of these contracts.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I move that we approve the contract as presented.
Okay,
I will second that.
okay, second by Tammy. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, thank you. Okay. We have our English language arts resource purchase.
You're gonna get hours, chief, you're gonna earn them.
I was not informed of this.
Come on up.
All right. So, I did not do a school report because I wanted to save it because it's directly connected to our, let's see, which one does that one? Is it the same one now?
Yeah.
Okay.
John just turned it off. He turned it off.
Well, saving money. Right?
Every penny.
That works. All right. But you've seen these numbers. It was in our last thing. You have the actual contract, the quotes in your board docs. But what's connected to this is our ELA teachers. Although we have not purchased this yet, this is the Study Sync program.
Oh, it's warming
Doesn't
up.
seem to wanna zoom out.
There it is.
There we go. All right. So the company has graciously allowed us to do some training for our teachers with this to get them started, because when you adopt a new resource, there is an immense amount of work that goes into that. And so our middle school ELA teachers met with the person from Study Sync from McGraw-Hill yesterday and went through the ELA materials. And our ELA teachers are meeting this week to plan their units of instruction around those new materials. And I wanted Mr. Francis to kind of talk a little bit about that process to this point.
Yeah, so yesterday was the big day. I think his name was Glenn.
Yep.
Glenn Diedrich or something like that. But he was excellent, walked us through the program, very knowledgeable.
Wonderful resource. Just several teachers I heard confirmed we picked the right resource. And there are so many avenues. So there is a structure, but also a flexibility within that structure. And as we worked through it yesterday, just really reaffirming good program. And he let us sit and talk through how we would use it. I thought good discussion happened at every grade level, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to be more closely aligned than we've ever been since I've been here, at least, and other teachers have talked 10, 15, 20 years. For example, in 8th grade, we're having discussions we've never had before. For our first unit of instruction, we're all reading the same novel, EMS, DMS, and we have 3 common texts that we're reading along with that novel, right? We have 3 common formative assessments that will be assessing the same standards between the 2 buildings. So we can come to meetings on, I think they'll be Wednesdays next year, but we'll come to meetings on Wednesdays with the other school with data available on how our students are performing. We will make decisions based on that data. We will reteach things that need to be retaught. We will move forward. We will know how to push kids that need further instruction, students who are already attaining the standard, right? We have so many materials available for those students to push them even further. So nothing but positivity in my mind on the horizon. The next few days, we won't even have enough time to cover everything we need to do. We've finished most of what our plan is for Unit 1. We still have to make 2 assessments, at least in 8th grade. And then we're going to go through Unit 2, 3, 4. We have 4 45-day units throughout the year. And so tons of work to be done, but it's moving forward. And I like I said, I haven't heard anything negative from what we've done so far. It's been really, really well done.
So I know it's always better to hear from the folks that are doing the work than the folks that are setting up the work. So I hope that you guys see some of the work that we've been doing around curriculum and instruction has just been a game changer in many respects. I get the opportunity, I get to sit on these conversations and listen to folks. And Mr. Francis is absolutely right. I've been here 20 years. I've never heard the kind of conversations that we're hearing right now. So it is so much fun to work with these folks, and they are gung-ho. I mean, they're getting after it. It truly is exciting. So I wanted to kind of put a face and a quick conversation around that what we're talking about purchasing. Okay, so with that, you have the McGraw-Hill Study Sync. It's an 8-year subscription, right? So every year on the date that we purchase, when we send that order in, every year for the next 7 years after this year, they will send us all new student materials on that purchase date. Okay, so it's student consumables. Kids can write in it, right? So often we talk about as a reading strategy, we want you to write in the margins, but you can't write in your textbook, right? So so these materials allow for that. You'll see the novels. McGraw-Hill is they're a huge company, but they're also very smart, and they told us flat out, you need additional novels for this. You can buy them from us, but it's going to be cheaper to go elsewhere. And so actually Cynthia Murdoch at Evanston Middle School put together this for us, because who better to find the best deals on books than a librarian, right? So, but that number, I can't tell you that number is an exact number. I didn't know this, but Amazon, as well as the bulk bookstore where we're buying these, actually change their prices weekly. So it's going to be plus or minus $2,000 from that number. That I can tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say, that number is different than the PowerPoint number that we have.
That's how.
That's why.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so, and I could have gotten you a number as of today, but I didn't want Alicia to go through all of that work. And then if we don't order it for another week, right, if we wait till July 1st to do that, then it's going to change again. So, and then the W.W. Norton resource is for our AP class. So we are actually offering AP English for 11th grade students starting next year, and this is the resource that will allow us to do that. Are there any questions?
So student consumables, this $239,109 is a one that's consumables for 8 years.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes. And the secondary, we do one-time purchases. Joe's not here for me to pick on. But right, absolutely. And they have to pay for it every year. No, this is a one-time shot. Okay. And I will tell you, these guys have been fantastic. When we looked at the novel purchase, they went through and inventoried what they had. They've been very frugal in their decision-making process, and I appreciate that.
Well, and one thing I'll say about the consumables too, just so you understand a little bit, those change from year to year as well. So it's a living textbook, right? If they decide, okay, this is a better text or this aligns closer, then they can change that in the consumables and send us a new, which is pretty cool, right? Because textbooks are usually pretty static, and you just get that for the next 20 years. And just like their online textbook, right? It matches the online textbook, but the online one can change from day to day to day, and it does. So, yeah, that's kind of how the consumables work.
All right, and so the last thing that I have is for us to get rid of our old books, we have to have you approve the excess of our old textbooks. And this goes back to our social studies books. We had a textbook buyer come and look at what we had, and they won't buy anything that's over 10 years old. So, so excess means that they are just disposed of. Okay, recycling always comes up, right? For us, recycling, you have to take the bindings off, and somebody has to do that, so it ends up being an additional expense to recycle them. I'm sorry, I missed your question, Jamie.
I was gonna say, I know once upon a time there were programs that we could send them to like schools in Africa kind of thing, but I don't think that happens anymore.
You know what? It's kind of sad because they come in and they the first thing they do is they walk in. I went through, our principals went through, and they went into the classrooms where we had excess books. They open it up, look at the copyright date, close it, and nope. Or yeah, if it's within 10 years, we'll give you $3 a book for it, or 50 cents a book. Even at that, it's more just thank you for taking them, and so that we have the space for the new materials. Okay.
Was that item I? Okay.
So
Sorry.
we are approving the purchase of the curriculum, not necessarily the price. Is that?
Correct. Yeah, you're approving. Well, you can approve the specific price for McGraw-Hill and W.W. Norton. Those are absolute lock solid quotes. The novels is the one that fluctuates, and what I can assure you is that we check every book through the bulk bookstore and Amazon. Whichever is cheaper, that's what we go with. And it does fluctuate. One's cheaper one time, and the other one's the next. So.
Okay. So is there a motion regarding the English Language Arts Resource purchase?
So excited about this.
So, Jenny. Okay, any discussion?
Only to echo what they both said about the excitement. I've heard the same thing, so
Good.
it's nice to hear that we have
It's
some
fun.
excitement in the curriculum, yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Brad.
Okay, our gas reinforcement proposal for North Elementary easement.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you can see that Mr. Dennis is conspicuously absent. But we went through this, if you recall, we talked about getting fair market value. The fair market value of boring under all of that is very little. We would like to recommend that you approve this easement. It follows a pattern that we've done several times already this year, not to charge fair market value. I can tell you that Questar's been amazing. When we had issues at Evanston Middle School, we realized we cut a gas line twice. They were very good partners with us. So I would recommend that you approve this easement as written.
Okay. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second that motion.
Okay, discussion?
I appreciate Superintendent Thomas's recommendation that we just grant this gratis, but I have a fundamental disconnect with that policy. Even if it's $1,500, I believe we have an obligation to the taxpayers of this community to get fair market value for those that we, for the easements that we property that we transfer, all of that kind of stuff, so, I would, again, I would hope that Dominion wouldn't have heartburn about $1,500. But my preference is that we at least get some compensation for these people.
Okay.
I believe the motion is to not have any, so you know where I'm voting.
Yes. Okay, any further discussion or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, so down to our Gatsby.
Okay. Yes.
I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, this is kind of one of those use of taxpayer funds piece. Madam Chair, members of the board, every 2 years we have to do an actuarial evaluation, and it's called a GASB 45, and actually they're moving to GASB 75. So what we need is numbers that go into our audit. So this is last year's audit, and as you see that there's a liability of $660,000 the last time they did this valuation. Now what is it? So for $5,000, you get to send an actuary into a dark room and they come out with some numbers that we don't know how they got it, but this report came in May 4th, and I'd like to kind of have you approve the report. What this is looking at is we offer a benefit to those who retire early from the school district. They can get insurance, all the insurances, at a reduced amount of 110% of what we charge. Now that doesn't really reflect the true cost to the individual, and we're trying to figure out what the cost is to the district to have that little program. If the individual were to go out and go into the market, 110% of the health insurance is a screaming deal for them. I mean, it could be twice that amount easily at the ages that we're talking about. And so this actuarial valuation looks at what is the subsidy cost to the district. So if we were to not have them on the rolls, theoretically, our insurance would go down because they're not, they're a little bit higher priced things. So this valuation came in, probably the one page that you might look at is this one. So what they're doing is they're saying, okay, if we give this benefit out for the newest person and that person lasts for 30 years and then retires, what is the cost of that going forward in time? That's what they're trying to figure out. And so you can see that the net liability basically is $740,000. It's theoretically costing us. Now, we don't ever write a check out to them. All this is doing is if we value the district as a business, what is the cost of it? So that's that report. $5,000 for 14 pages. So
Essentially, you're close to $1 million. Granted, you got this little discount, you get the $740,000. There is a presumption that, and again, this is a benefit that after you retire, we continue to pay a portion of your health insurance and discount it.
up to 65.
Up to 65. This is something that is,
Yeah, right now, we don't pay a portion.
okay, that was my question.
We allow our retired employees to take our insurance up to the age 65 at 110% of premium. That's the part that's interesting. So they're paying
So
10%
they pay
more.
110% of the cost.
But still, again, this is that voodoo economics or whatever. The idea that they're still getting a better deal than they could get on the open marketplace at 110% of the premium. So it is a benefit we provide our retirees. And right now, we have retirees that range from 58 to
Yeah.
72. Of course, the 72 wouldn't qualify for this, but
We're talking about 10 employees.
yeah.
Well, and that's what
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but the unfunded liability that they're talking about here is if they don't pay and we have them on our health insurance, what would we owe
Well,
the insurance company, as I understand it?
What it also is saying is that with the 10%, they're also figuring in that there would be a certain number, about the same amount ratio-wise, that would go on it in the future, and how much would it cost in the future? So it's also looking at people who are in the system right now. There's a certain percentage, very small, that would possibly take this benefit.
Right.
The interesting thing, and again, this stuff's way out there anyway, but just the idea, we talk to our insurance company every year and ask them, are the retirees hurting us? They basically are telling us, no, they're helping us. They continue the size of our pool. This is nationwide results in terms of what typically retired people impact insurance. Our retirees seem to be very, very healthy. And so it's one of those things that
Yeah.
we just have to do, but we don't see it as a negative. We could always charge 115% or 120% of premium.
I mean, they'd still be
But-
getting a smoking deal.
Yeah, and we would still get this.
Yeah, we would
So-
still have it. The only way to do it is
Because it does,
pull the benefit out.
it does represent a potential
They're getting
cost.
the better rate because of the large group.
Right, they're
Exactly.
getting a
So they
pool
wouldn't be able to
rate,
get it in.
right,
Well,
rather
and
than an
also
individual rate.
the pool's health. We're very healthy
Yeah.
pool, so they benefit from that. Where if they go to the outside and participate on the market, the pool is not as healthy. So, again, we don't see them as costing us anything. They're actually paying additional to
But
participate.
this is something that we have to sort of put in reserve.
Most
No,
Okay, that's the question, is do we
up
have
here.
to,
we don't.
just up here?
Yeah. So we don't, you could pre-fund it, but we have chosen not to. I mean, the board has chosen not to.
Sort of like pre-funding payouts of sick and vacation if somebody leaves kind of thing.
Yeah, and so we've just said, hey, the amount that we have to pay each year in subsidized costs. So let me go to that page right here, okay? So what this is saying is that in this year, 2018, they're estimating about $56,000. If, according to them, if we didn't have those individuals, if we didn't have this program, theoretically, our insurance our cost would go down by 56,000.
Correct.
And so you can pre-fund it, but we said, yeah, well, let's just kind of keep on going the way it is on that, and we're totally fine. Again, this is looking at the district as if it's a business, and in order to look at it as a business, we've got to value everything: buildings, what's the depreciation, and the policies that are kind of driving certain actions. So we offer a post-employment benefit. What's the cost? That's what this study does. Okay. Any other questions? Please.
Is this something that we have to adopt? Is the
Well,
GASB?
The GASB doesn't need to be adopted, but much like we approve when you hire somebody to do a professional study, they usually the board usually approves the study.
Since the cost is above 10,000.
Yeah, well, it was 5,000,
Yeah,
but we
well,
just,
yeah,
so this is a courtesy, but,
An
Here's-
FYI.
yes,
And FYI approval.
yeah,
We approve for receiving it.
exactly. I mean, again, I don't know how they do it.
And if you'd rather not, we don't have to, but
It's fine, I just don't know what the motion will be. Is the motion to accept the report?
Accept the report, yeah, so.
I'll second that.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, now to approve the psychological evaluation bid.
Madam Chair, members of the board, remember as part of policy CKA, we decided to go out to bid for a psychological evaluation. We put out details statewide, probably nationwide, and we did receive 2 bids. I guess the good news is the bids are both lower than we anticipated. Also, I think it's also good that both bids are basically stating these are the same evaluations they give to potential police officers before they're allowed to train. And that's what we wanted. If you look at both of them in detail, really the form and the method are very, very similar. One is $200 cheaper. There is one advantage that may be an unintended consequence is the less expensive bid is not local. In terms of confidentiality of these exams, it protects confidentiality. They can do an on-site, and they're very willing to do an on-site. They would just charge travel. Basically, they're doing it through social media, through contacts, face-to-face that way. Our recommendation is that you approve the bid from Post and Associates. Those will be $400 per psychological evaluation.
I will make that motion to approve the bid from Post Associates, I believe. Second.
Second by Jenny. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, project approval of Safe Defend.
Talk amongst yourself. I hope this works. It's been kind of touchy. Let me see if I can. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, this is not typically the way we approve these kind of things, but this is, we feel important enough that we wanted to bring it to you in June. Safe Defend, we've talked about, and we've actually shown you a very short video of this product. The purpose of Safe Defend is to enhance our security at our facilities in really 2 ways, 2 main ways. Number 1 is access for every employee to sound an alarm if there's an intruder in the building. It literally takes a fingertip. Every classroom, multiple locations through the schools will have a finger swipe. Any employee can swipe that finger. It sends an alarm, automatically contacts dispatch within 30 seconds, and also administration within 30 seconds. The benefit of that is it just doesn't give a location like Evanston High School. It will actually indicate the specific room where the alarm was sounded. We've had a lot of discussion about school safety. What it comes down to is really providing a barrier of time for students. That's what saves lives. And that's what this does, is it allows very quick notification. Also, there are audible and visual alarms, strobes and horns, which also act as a, I don't know what you want to call it, not a deterrent, but it would definitely spook most people. It'll allow teachers hopefully quicker time to lock their doors, create that time barrier, and hopefully protect their kids. It is costly. And like I said, I'm pretty sure we showed you this video or a portion of this video before. Safe Defend, we're actually going to come and make a presentation. The last minute they couldn't make it. We've been working with them very closely. They've presented a bid. We asked them all of the classrooms, half the classrooms, a third of the classrooms. What will it cost? The benefit to this system is it works on Ethernet, which are the computer cords, which we already have access to almost all of our facilities and all of our classrooms, so they're plug-in. Each facility will have, including this building, transportation, maintenance, have a centralized computer that the hub, I guess, Jaren's not here to explain all of this, but That's how it operates. That's how it notifies law enforcement and administration. It will notify administration right on their cell phones within, like I said, 30 seconds. The second part, why we're looking at this, is the training involved. It is limited training, but it is training that we've really never had. Some first aid, some, I guess, high intensity. You're talking about an active shooter in this training. What we're looking at is a box, which is a biometric lock box. It's a safe. I forgot, Liberty Safe Company produces them. On the top is a finger swipe. That's how you get into the box. That sounds the alarm. In the box are tools for teachers. There is a high-intensity strobe light. There is mace. There is a baton to defend themselves, but mostly that's to break a window so they can evacuate. There's actually handcuffs, and then there's a first aid. What? No, not a defibrillator. The trauma patch that. Yeah, tourniquets. So the trauma patch is something that we have, but not access to every classroom or half of the classrooms. Kind of an unintended consequence of that is these safes, our true gun safes with biometric locks, would support our policy CKA for individuals that would want to use a biometric box. So that was already an expense that we hadn't even talked about yet with individuals that would concealed carry. And we can't afford one in every classroom, but I don't think we need one in every classroom to start. This would be to start us out. They have an actuator in every classroom, which would be a finger swipe. So they just may not have the box. These boxes are attached permanently, but they can be removed just by unplugging because they plug into the Ethernet. That's where they get their power. It doesn't answer all the questions, of course, with safety and defense, but it's just one more layer to provide that time. The barrier. It is.
Fancier.
Yes. And because of the way the system works, we don't have to retrofit every one of our buildings, which would be very cost prohibitive. The reason why we're bringing to this now for approval is because if we approve this, we can actually have this in place for the beginning of school, including training for all of our staff. They've already committed to us to do that. So what I would like to do is hopefully show you this video if it does work. It works about every other time. And just give you an idea. Also, Safe to Defend will be here in, they'll be here in July. And they'll do a live demonstration for you of how it works.
The leaded building, is that through here and then transportation?
Yes.
Which is a need. We need it everywhere.
Oh, stop. Whoa. You guys hear any sound? I was hoping it'd play externally. Nothing.
Where's Chad?
That's the other panic button.
Oh.
Safe Defend is
got
a
it.
rapid response system. that
Thank
provides
you.
training,
Just the
notification, and protection against active shooters and hostile threats. What do most schools have in common? These randomly selected schools from the spring of 2017 show that there have been shootings and stabbings, and we must understand that they all had a plan. What they had in common, they all did some sort of training. They utilized security cameras, controlled access entry in their doors. All of them had phones, intercoms, and radios that they utilized for their primary communication tool. Many of them used armed resource officers. So if they had all these security measures in place, then why do we still have stabbings and shootings occurring? Better understand this, we need to see where the threat actually comes from. And it probably won't surprise many of you, but 84% come from troubled students, while 5% are from current or former employees. Another 5% have a relationship either with that employee, such as a spouse, or with that student, such as a sibling or a parent. Only 6% have no relationship with anyone in the school. This is 94% of your biggest threat is already inside the building. So we need to understand or look at, can it happen here? In the past, there have been 0 fire deaths in schools in the past 50 years. There's been only 19 weather-related deaths in schools in the past 40 years. While there's been 1,024 homicides in U.S. schools during the past 30 years. This number does not reflect what has occurred in 2018 so far. If you look at the different reasons that I'm putting up on the board, you'll see most likely your school or your district has one of these or multiple. If you have any of these issues, it is a possibility that you would have a hostile threat occur within your district. While fire deaths and weather deaths remain relatively low, if not obsolete, and homicides are extremely high, we have to understand what is the primary difference. With fire and with weather, we have an alert system, an immediate notification system that tells us if the building is on fire, we need to get out. There's a weather system that says we're going to have tornadoes, we're going to have floods, other type events, and we need to protect ourselves. Unfortunately, with homicides in the schools, we're not addressing that issue from an alert standpoint. I'm going to show you the Safe Defense system, and it's a brief video that'll explain a little bit more about school shootings and the violence in schools, as well as what we do to protect the students and the staff within the building.
I worked with the FBI for 24 years. I worked a variety of crimes and criminal investigations, mostly violent crimes. My final position was as the FBI Special Agent in Charge. About 2 or 3 months into that position is when the Red Lake High School massacre occurred. Everybody was really struggling with the emotions. It was just a horrific event, but we had to keep moving and we had to be professional. And I think that was the greatest challenge. After the event, we always have an after-action sort of analysis. But we saw there was room to train schools, train administrators, and give them a much better fighting chance should this happen again.
I was an elementary principal at the time of the Sandy Hook tragedy, and the impact that it had upon me was overwhelming. I realized how vulnerable we really were. You see, Sandy Hook was actually better protected than my building. They were better prepared. It's the first time I felt like I couldn't protect my students and staff, but I couldn't protect my own children. Safe Defend was born from that tragedy. Safe Defend became for me a mission, a need, to make sure my students and staff get home to hug their families at night, to make sure my own children get home to hug me at night. That's why I created Safe Defend. When the system is activated, staff and employees have access to tools recommended by threat assessment experts, law enforcement, and emergency responders, which will help them escape, protect, or respond to a trauma. Emergency strobes are placed throughout the building and on exterior doors, immediately alerting staff that a crisis is taking place. With the swipe of the finger, the system is activated, immediately notifying law enforcement, staff, and district personnel of a crisis down to the room number. This allows everyone to have the information they need to effectively respond to a crisis.
There may come a time during a school or workplace shooting where you're confronted with the shooter and you have no option but to fight. That's a personal decision and has to be based on the circumstances at the moment. With Safe Defend, you will have at least some tools to try to defend yourself, tools that you can easily master and use without creating any greater danger. It also gives you the tools to escape, help you get out maybe a window that is locked, and in the worst case scenario, it has first aid if someone is injured.
I'm Jeff Green, and I created Safe Defend to protect those that I care about. And so you can protect those that you care about.
So that video kind of summarizes the system, how it works, and how the immediate response of the text alert goes out to local law enforcement as well as staff within your building. It shows the contents of the safe. Obviously that can be adjusted and changed to your liking and to your greatest benefit. And when we look at benefits, I want to bring you now to this next slide with direct benefits. The direct benefits of the Safe Defend system include an immediate warning. There's no delay, and you have no fine motor skills required to initiate it. You don't need to pick up a phone and call 911. You don't need to open an app on your cell phone and try to reach out to others in your building and to get help on the way. With the touch of a finger, it automatically does a series of events. It's an immediate lockdown. When those sirens and strobes go off throughout your building, everyone knows to get behind a locked door, get in their safe location, proceed to get the information that they need to make the informed decision. It separates and isolates the bad guy from the rest of your students and your staff population. Sends out location text alerts, exact location of which box, which safe, or which activation module was activated. It also calls 911 immediately to inform them that you need help. This provides 3 to 5 minute faster emergency response. With the majority of these events occurring in 5 to 7 minutes, the faster we can get emergency help there, local law enforcement will be to everyone's benefit. It is a comprehensive plan with tangible survival options included in the safe. The total plan allows you to disrupt and defeat the individual's plan of attack, and at the same time it reduces casualties. You reduce vulnerabilities and you establish a deterrent. Once individuals that may do harm in your school know that you're protected with a system such as Safe Defend, they're less likely to target. You're no longer considered a soft target. Some advanced features of the Safe Defend system. It's a dedicated threat protection system. There's no requirement that it ties into an outside server or something that you may need to run an app through, and that requires other systems to work. Once the safety box is open, the sirens and strobes throughout the building do sound, alerting everyone that there's something occurring. We do custom designs to accommodate any budget. We can do multiple options to look at different levels of protection. It's access controlled, so there's no malicious activity and no false alarms. Only pre-approved staff are preloaded into the system and allow them to set the program off. There's various activation points, such as modules and safety boxes, that each would hold 1,000 secure files per campus location. So it easily covers all your staff within your district and within each building location. It's network-based, plug and play, power over Ethernet, which is expandable and allows you the ability to add on in years to come. The devices are remotely programmed and they transmit that critical location information. If you have a new hire, whether it's a substitute or a new staff member, you can program them in immediately that morning from one location and push it out to the others within the school. There's a secure web interface for system management. You have complete control of who is in the system and who has access to specific boxes or locations within your building. We do offer a pro support option that provides turnkey service, replacement, and extends your warranty. That summarizes the Safe Defense System. If you have additional questions, you may reach out to me at my email, my cell phone, all included on this slide. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'll get to the part now if I can. Thank you. Where's the rest? In your packet, you do have a bid from Safe Defend, and I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at it. As I mentioned, there are actually 3 proposals, one for 100% of the classrooms, one for 50% of the classrooms, and one for 1/3 of the classrooms.
That answered my first question.
Yeah. So if you look at the amounts, you can see that 100% of the classrooms is $381,000. We just can't afford that right now. But the key to that is you can see they have 208 PPSs. That is 208 classrooms, 208 places, 208 boxes, safes, and then 101 activation modules. That's the finger swipe. So what we're proposing is actually proposal 2. 50%. What it'll allow is roughly every other classroom will have a box. Every classroom will have at least a finger swipe. This is what we can build upon. They actually gave us a better rate than this, roughly $25,000 off if we become a demonstration site, which yeah, we would gladly do. How we'd pay for this year is we think $200,000 can come out of our major maintenance money, 10% from this year, 10% from next year, which still gives us 10% for next year to do other things, and then $100,000 out of board reserve. As we see how this works, next year we can actually change the activators for boxes. We can
I was
update.
gonna say, we can add to and adjust.
Yes. So that's our proposal.
Does
Yeah.
it have a price like to adding on?
Yeah,
'Cause
roughly.
I'm looking, I look at it and I see $60,000 to get twice as much.
I agree,
You know what I'm saying? Like, next year, is it gonna be $200,000 to get the same amount of thing? Whereas you can get it for $60,000 now.
Not everybody has a box.
No, they all get the training. We've actually.
They all get the training.
Yes. They'll all, and that's the key to this too, is every finger will work every activation module. Not every finger will activate every box. So you could have an activation module in the hallway, in the faculty lounge, principal's office, under a teacher's desk. But the boxes would be typically identified for the individual classroom.
Okay, so you have 50% of boxes. They have boxes, what happens to the other 50% instance where we have?
They have a module. If you look at
Finger swipe.
if you look at the top of this, there we get 107 boxes
So that makes me feel better.
and 202 activation modules.
Okay, so everybody gets a swiper.
Yeah. So every classroom, it's not only every classroom, it's actually every room
Every room.
and hallways. One of the advantages to a system like this as compared to others I've seen, I think you've seen the video that was kind of in our community where they had a toggle around their neck.
Right.
But that could be, anyone could activate that with just the press of a button. So the chances of having a false alarm was pretty high. You leave it on your desk and a student gets it, not knowing what it is potentially, but only those that have been scanned in can hit this. It is a lot of money.
Well, and I'm sort of with Josh, I mean, it's
Me
like,
too.
for
For
$60,000
more, you're
getting
getting all
everybody,
of
but
them.
I mean, I appreciate where we are in the budget, I get it.
Yeah.
And if there's any way to come up with that $60,000 so everybody has a box, fantastic, but as long as everybody has a swiper, I'm probably okay.
Well, where the $60,000 would come from is the carryover that you just saw, 6.2 million.
Yeah.
Board reserve.
What's in that again? Board reserve?
6.2 million. The other side of this, looking at all aspects of this, we don't know in 3 years if this is gonna be obsolete. In other words, something else may be on the market.
That's better.
But that's a what if. This starts protecting our kids and our teachers in August.
What's the training? I mean, is it comparable to what we talked about before?
Yes and no. The training is specific to, I guess, tactics involved with.
The Alice training, no, this would be different than Alice's,
But
I understand.
we're already gonna provide that training in addition to this. So roughly this is 2 hours of training for our staff. 1 hour is on techniques. Basically, they're gonna talk about what's happening in schools and how you're gonna be hurt. Techniques that are different than, probably more like Alice. The idea is if you're in the hallway and this alarm goes off, don't necessarily go to a classroom, exit if you can exit, leave, self-evacuate. We never really allowed our kids to do that. Well, now it's time that we do allow that. Break a window, get out, barricade a door. So an hour of the training will deal with that, and then an hour will be specific for this tool.
The equipment.
And then do we also train, I mean, at some point, we have to train the kids, what happens when the blue light goes off? What do you
Mhm.
do? Not just the teachers.
Yeah.
But do they support that? Do they do that, or is it up to the teachers? and
No,
you
the
to do that?
teachers will actually do that, and what we kind of have plans, I already promised, committed that
Yes,
there'll
you
be
did.
training. We'll start with our principals, then we'll train our staff, the staff need to train the kids. We're still working through K-5 versus 6-12. There's a different type of discussion that needs to be had. But I tell you, even now, 4 years ago, our teachers through the crisis team, district crisis team, were opposed to the Alice training. They're not anymore.
Can't be.
There were 3 school shootings after
After we pass the
after we
policies.
passed the
Actually, more than
thing.
that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other
3 in 1 week.
positive that I see with having boxes in every classroom is we were going to have to purchase lock boxes for
Anyway.
the teachers that are carrying.
Yeah,
True.
in terms of a confidentiality approach, again, no one will know.
Which is in
So
what box?
if you
Yeah.
had it in every classroom, then you're adding to that confidentiality. I don't know, I just think for 60,000 more, I just
We
think
gotta
we
come up
should
with
do
more.
it, but.
I'm sorry, I think you go big or go home. It's our kids' safety, it's our staff safety. I mean, granted, we were the pioneers of this whole thing here. There's not another district or behind us. But I think for the safety of our people, I think these guys
You
are
find the
right.
money.
$60,000, we just need to find the money.
Oh, we got it carried over, so it's not an
Baked
issue.
goods at a
Okay.
baked
Well-
goods,
So-
we find the money.
Amen.
Mr.
So-
Thomas, this is kind of a naive question, I guess, from the tech side, you know.
Yeah.
So you get your finger activation. What if you're a mobile teacher and you're teaching in about 4 areas? Are you
You're-
scanning
Yeah.
many
Yes.
boxes?
They said there's 1,000 files per box.
Oh,
And they
that's
can
what
do it that morning.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's what that means.
Yeah.
You check
Oh, so
in,
you're
you check in with
substitutes
the
will be
building
able
each
to get
morning,
it.
whether
Yes.
you're a sub or a wandering teacher or whatever, you get your finger swiped and access for that building, whatever you're in that day, and they can add it, yeah, for each building.
That explains it. I didn't know what a file meant.
Yeah.
So in the revised proposal in the email, it said that they are willing to give us a lower price for option 2 and option 3, but why not option 1?
They would.
Would they?
Yeah, I went when I saw 381,000, so we didn't even ask for.
So did you ask them the question of what this system looks like 3 years down the road?
We did.
And what was their response?
They don't know either. But the very last bullet they talked about was this extended warranty part of it. Their software is going to improve and update. Much like, well, you can't see it, the defibrillators, we have an annual cost to keep those up. There's an annual cost for this too, but we can train our own maintenance guys to do it. So they don't have to come and replace the batteries and the flashlight. We can do that ourselves.
And they haven't told us, I mean, what I'm seeing is that for the first year, some of this warranty, training, all this stuff is gratis.
Mhm.
And then I'm assuming that there will be an ongoing maintenance contract after that. but
This
without
is,
all those costs.
this is it right here.
The 13, so
Yeah.
that would start in year 2. So
Yes.
that's- okay.
Now, I think this, and I need to tie that down. This may be the gold, they call it the gold, where they'll actually send a team to come in and change the boxes. The silver is we do it ourselves, which we save some money. Pretty sure they didn't bid the silver package, so, but I think it was less than that.
No, I'd rather have them do it, quite frankly.
Well, we can do that too, but,
And maybe there is room for movement, you know, for this important of an issue, I would have thought that they would have been quick to jump on board to be here to talk with us.
no, they were. They really were. Remember, we've been working with them for about a month to get these bids. It's not just a pencil thing. We had to send them our plans. They had to go through our plans from all of our facilities. We sent them all of our facilities. And they put, this is what they believe we need. It's kind of like top level, middle level, and a lower level. And so it did take some time. By the time we kind of negotiated with them and tried to make a better deal, they were planning to come, something just happened, so he couldn't make it. So he sent, that's his slide deck, basically.
So is it feasible for them to get this done before the school year
That was the
starts?
commitment we asked them. And they come and do it, so this won't tax our maintenance people. Now, I know they can do option 2 and option 3. I assume for more money, they'll be able to do option 1, but it is more boxes. There's no more devices, I guess, though, because you still plug in a module just like you plug in a box. So I can't imagine they can't do it. So,
So, at this point, Madam Chair, I would move that we approved option number 1 for the Safe Defend contract and find the money somewhere.
I second that.
I third it.
Okay, any further discussion?
Kim was the second.
Jenny was the second. Yes, George.
I was a third.
Yes, yes, please.
Kim West and Susan Dasher from Emergency Management, they're pretty interested in this, and they like to observe when we do our training. And Susan Dasher did volunteer that if we wanted it, if they didn't provide it, she would provide training on the tourniquet
trauma kits,
and
drug pack.
Oh,
kit that
yes.
we get.
Okay, great.
And of course, that's in no charge, so
Good to know.
it's just there.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
So-
We had
so-
a motion, right? We had a second and a
Yes.
third.
I was just looking at prices again for discussion areas. So with the first year, so
all
there's,
that's
so
included in the
there's,
first year.
yeah, but the pro support, goal plan, activation module, and safe defend, I mean, that comes up to quite a bit, those last 3 boxes.
For the
So,
annual
so
cost.
that's something that we would anticipate a rolling cost. The 12,480, 3,000, 13,000.
The only cost we have ongoing is the communication part. of it. That is. that is
Okay.
definitely-
So not the pro support?
And, yeah, Madam Chair, I would actually like to amend my motion to say, get a discount for option 1.
I think that's I
Yeah.
think you've got some play there.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking at, I'm pretty sure, I don't know why they wouldn't chalk 25,000 off this one, so that would be 356,125.
We find the money, I think that's where we need to be.
Well, we know where the money would be, come out of the carryover.
And I'm okay with that.
One-time expenditure, in 18-19's budget.
Right, yep.
Okay. So
John's still breathing over there.
Calm down, John. Breathe.
Sorry, John.
Okay, so there's an amended, so there's an,
Are you jerking and touching him there, John? I think he's having a seizure.
so there's an amended motion
Amending to get the discount
for
for option 1.
this. Okay, so is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
You guys already know about the textbooks.
Right.
Yes, so, we have our excess of old curriculum textbooks. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, Madam Chairman, to access the old curriculum textbooks.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Tammy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Yes. Okay, so down to our J item, which is our petition response regarding our safety policy. So, as we discussed, that we would make everything available to the public by request. We would make sure that anybody who is, who wants a copy will get a copy of the response in the document. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Who was that, Jenny?
Yes.
Second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I appreciate the work that went into formulating the response. And I know that in terms of evidence that the board relied on in support of their decision, I just wanted to say that a lot of us individually also did additional research. I know I personally went through many, many files, many, many incidents. I had the opportunity to pilfer through my husband's big file of school shooting and after-action reports and incident reports to look at some of those. And so, in addition to some of the things that we as a board in whole looked at, a lot of us did look at a lot of statistics on response times, on what works and what doesn't work. And I think as I have said before in previous meetings, this is just one of the many tools that we want to use to keep our kids safe. And while it may not be popular, I appreciate the questions and just wanted you to know, or those that filed the petition to know that we individually also looked at many other things besides these.
Does anybody else have any direct comments to the petition response or answers or? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
And then the second part of this, Madam Chair, is because the petition requested that we reconsider the decision, I would make a motion that we deny the petition for reconsideration and keep the policies in place.
Second that
Okay.
motion.
Okay, second by Dave.
One more time, Jean.
Sorry, my motion is that we deny the petition for reconsideration and not reconsider the policies.
And second by Dave. Any discussion or comments on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Down to our board roundtable. Would anybody like to share any experiences?
I'm gonna share one thing, and I'm totally
Kim, can you turn on your
blowing
microphone?
my own horn at this point, but I have to tell you, sitting at the Louisiana State University graduation, probably 80,000 people in attendance, and having Zach Bateman from Evanston, Wyoming, and all of us Wyoming people hooting and hollering, it warmed my heart to be an Evanston High School graduate coming from LSU with an engineering degree, and we do good work here. That's
I
it.
agree, we do.
Family was there. There was 21 of us, so, yeah.
Great.
They gave you more than 6 tickets?
It was open, there were no tickets. There's so many seats there, you don't need tickets. So it was a great thing.
Tiger Stadium there.
Yes. Yes.
Well, our own graduation was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So we've got some great kids, lots of inspiration going around. It was a joy. It was a great day.
Thank you, everybody involved.
I'd like to piggyback on that because I was there and got to participate, shake those hands, kids. Brought back some good memories of Evanston High School and things I missed at times because graduation was a good time for everybody. And
Yes, sir.
And the high school did a good job. Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything else to share? Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. And our next item is our executive session for personnel and litigation. Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved, Madam Chairman?
Second?
Okay, second by Josh. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We will adjourn back in here, but we will not be doing anything else. So I would say you would be free to leave if you'd like.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think we should, yes.
That's okay. Thank you. Yeah. What if I remember?